Welcome back to the Fantasy Inferno, your weekly redraft fantasy football show. We are here tonight talking rest of season. So we're going to try to help you get an understanding of, are some of these guys going to be worth it for the rest of your redraft season, or should you be trying to move them for better pieces? As always, with me is Bryce. How are you, my friend?
I'm always good, Brad. Thanks for asking. Cody, how are you?
Very well, very well. Big win for my Bengals. Play the worst team potentially in football this week, so things are looking up for the Cincy Bengals right now.
Wait a second. They play Detroit.
Oh.
No, the Jets.
Oh, is it? Oh, are you got? When is that next week? The week after?
I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, we play Philly this weekend.
Yeah.
New England just curb stomped the poor Jets.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be
Poor
bad.
Guys.
It's gonna be a massacre. I'm excited.
Hi, Lewis. Welcome, my friend. It'll be a fun weekend of games. You know, now that we're past bye week apocalypse that we had. Hopefully, everybody's teams made it out alive. I know a couple of my teams did pretty well, and a couple of my other teams did not. But you know, it is the way the world works. I do want to talk about. So this week we're talking kind of rest of season. Now that we're getting close to the halfway point, we want to make sure that everybody's ready for that kind of stretch run towards the playoffs. But first, we had to trade this. You know, we had a trade today. Mark Ingram went back to the Saints. So I want to make sure that we bring that up because I saw lots of folks in the Discord community talking about it and kind of all over the place talking about this trade. It is a depth move for sure. I mean, obviously Alvin Kamara is the man, but do you guys think that Ingram gives any fantasy value if you're looking for some running back help with all the injuries that we've seen? Cody, I'll start with you. What do you think about that move?
Yeah, I think the only reason that they didn't bring back Latavius Murray was just a cap casualty. It is what it is. They were way up against the cap coming into last season. So I think that was literally the only reason they didn't bring him back, or sorry, they had to cut him, sort of a thing. And I think we talked about it actually a couple of weeks ago that they were really missing that aspect of that offense. And I think that it gets right back to where it was. Obviously, there's a difference between Drew Brees and Jameis Winston, but as far as the running game is concerned, I think it brings them right back to where they were with Latavius Murray. As far as fantasy implications, you know, handcuff, he might be a flex starter in a super pinch sort of a thing, just like Latavius Murray was last year. But I think there's a drop off slightly from Latavius Murray to Mark Ingram in that offense. What do you figure, Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what you said, Latavius Murray got cut for, you know, money reasons, and bringing in Mark Ingram is a guy that, because it seemed like when Alvin Kamara's not on there, their run game is just pretty bad. Like there's nobody kind of stepping up, and Mark Ingram comes in as a good, you know, whether it's short goal line back or when Alvin Kamara needs a spell. I don't really see much fantasy value coming out of him unless there's an injury to Kamara. But, you know, they were getting him more involved. Kamara has not been involved in the pass game like he was last year, and now he's kind of they've realized they got to circle that offense around him, like we just saw this past week. So the addition of Mark Ingram is just kind of he might get like 5 or 6, maybe 7 touches a week. So I wouldn't be putting him in my lineup unless I saw an injury personally. Brad?
Yeah, I think the biggest factor in this equation is, did anybody see Brandon Cooks' tweet about this? He was not very happy, to say the least. I will share it because it's pretty funny. But that is, there we go. So Brandon Cooks is not happy about this trade. Obviously, he's looking to maybe get on the move as well. So it'll be interesting to see as we get to the trade deadline what other things happen. But when it comes to Ingram, I mean, this is more of one of those, you need some depth, you need some help at running back, you know, why not? I mean, his value was nothing right now, so he was most likely on waiver wires in a lot of the redraft leagues. I checked pre-show, all the redraft leagues I was in, he was on the waiver wire.
Mm-hmm.
If you need running back help, it doesn't hurt. Like, what's the difference? Nothing, because you're probably not going to have to spend much to get him. Some folks may overpay, but I wouldn't. You know, if you're looking for a fab percentage, 5%, maybe. I mean, probably not even that, because what's the value in a guy who's going to get you kind of some boom weeks here and there that you may not be able to trust? Not very much in my mind.
Yeah, I think you know, with Tony Jones on the IR, that any Kamara owner should be rushing out to handcuff him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to touch on that Brandon Cooks thing for a second. I think he's got to start understanding the business side of this game. Like he doesn't, I don't think he wants to be traded. He said, going into this year, he'd rather retire than get traded again or something like that. So, I think he absolutely should get traded, and I think he absolutely will. And I have a scenario for that actually. So, but he's got to start understanding the business side of this game, man. Guys get traded, players get moved. It happens. Sure, he's been traded a lot, but it seems like he just gets really frustrated with this business side of football that is absolutely there. And you have to understand it exists. It's a thing. Honestly, you're a commodity to these owners. Like they don't care that you're a human with a family, with kids. It doesn't matter, to be honest. Like it's the business side of the game that, everybody has to understand. And it doesn't seem like Brandon Cooks really wants to.
Yeah. And it's tough. I mean, when you've moved as many times as he has, I got to think that wears on you a bit, but anybody in Houston, I would think you would want to be traded by the deadline this year so you have a chance to compete. I mean, what are you building for right now? Who knows? Because most of the guys that are moving off that team are probably not going to survive their rebuild. It's going to take them a few years to really get back. If they do it right, it's going to take probably 3-4 years to really build this thing back right. So why would you want to stay? What really value does it benefit you? If you're looking for a ring, and I don't think Brandon Cooks has one. I think he's been to the Super Bowl a couple times because he went with the Patriots when they lost, right?
Oh, it's hard to say.
The Rams when they lost,
and the Rams and the Saints and the Patriots.
So he's been to the Super Bowl, but he doesn't have a ring. So I would think he would want to go somewhere to get a ring. But we'll see. I think Houston has a few commodities, probably more on the defensive side than on the offensive side. But Brandon Cooks, could be very helpful for teams that need wide receiver help. We've seen plenty of wide receivers get hurt this year, and if I was him, I would want to go too, go somewhere, get a ring, move on. Think about Cleveland. Cleveland needs lots of wide receiver help. There's plenty of teams that could use a receiver that are in the playoff hunt.
So since we were doing this, I set this up, or I looked into all these three guys, trade targets. It is rest of season predictions type of a thing. So the three targets that I got being traded, one of them is Brandon Cooks. I had Allen Robinson written down, but looking at it, he's not getting traded. Allen Robinson isn't getting traded anywhere. I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if he gets traded anywhere just because of his cap. The $17 million he's due this year. So I'm not sure what that's, prorated for the rest of the season, but just looking at, who has what cap space, I'd be shocked if Allen Robinson ends up getting traded.
Yeah, he's a free agent after this year.
Exactly. Yeah. Where do I think Brandon Cooks goes? I did some digging. I'm predicting right now, I think Brandon Cooks goes to the LA Chargers. They have the room. They need him. They need another outside weapon there. Keenan Allen in the slot, Mike Williams on the other side. Mike Williams has been banged up. They're unsure about him after this season. They probably re-sign him. Cooks has, it's only a 5.58 something cap hit. Chargers have about 11 million in cap space. I think it's a match made in heaven. I think Brandon Cooks to the LA Chargers. I don't know what compensation, maybe, second, something like that. Second, third, maybe. One of those two, or a player or I don't know, something like that. But that's the landing spot that I think makes tons of sense for Brandon Cooks. And I think it's hard to say what it would do to his fantasy value, but I think it would go up a little bit. What would you say to that deal, Bryce? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like it seems like you almost have to have three really good receivers to compete with some of these teams, like the Bills, when the Chiefs inevitably get their crap back together. Tampa Bay's got three. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. You want to surround Justin Herbert with as much talent as possible. I don't know if that really increases his fantasy value. Obviously his touchdown upside goes up significantly, but I think his targets and that production decreases just because there's so many mouths to feed. Austin Eckler is very involved in the pass game as well. If Mike Williams stays injured, then it definitely increases. Or even if Keenan Allen, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, both are guys that really haven't stayed healthy their entire career. So I guess his value kind of almost fluctuates based on that. Obviously, I'd like to see Brandon Cooks come back to New England. That'd be really nice because they could really use some wide receiver help. I'm not sure what their cap space looks like. I think they still would have enough room for that, but I don't know if they bring back a guy like that they traded. Bill Belichick has some sort of principle. I feel like when players go away, he can't bring them back unless it's like Jamie Collins might be the exception. Kyle Benoit, defensive players.
Defensive
Womp, womp, womp.
But fantasy value, I think it maybe decreases slightly, but has the potential to increase based on the health of the other receivers.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it helps his fantasy value moving off because in Houston, the right teams take him out of the game. And look at how New England handled him. He was out of the game. I mean, you just didn't get fantasy production from him. You didn't get any production from him, really. I could see him going to a few teams that are all kind of playoff type contenders. The Chargers would fit in that conversation. I haven't dug too deep into the numbers, but a team, like I mentioned, like Cleveland or Tennessee, the Titans are, we've been seeing their wide receiver struggles all season with Julio keep getting banged up, and AJ's looking healthy, but he's been banged up. And, Indy could use some receiver help because they can't keep TY healthy, and Pittman's really it. I mean, so I could probably think of 3 or 4 teams, and the Chargers would be the best for him. Like, I think the Chargers would definitely
and for the Chargers.
And for the Chargers too. I think it works out for both of them. But if you're looking for somebody to get, where would he go to get the most fantasy production? Well, any of the teams that need a kind of a deep threat outside receiver that could, share the targets. I don't know. When you think about the Chargers offense, with Williams would have to be on a pitch count for me to think Cooks could really give you a strong week. I think sharing those touches, and then you factor in Cook at tight end and the running game, who they're going to drop it to in the running game. There's just a lot of mouths to feed, so it's always a dangerous proposition. Keenan Allen's going to get his, and then this year Mike Williams seems to be. But I love it for the offense. Fantasy-wise, it feels like each week you never know which one's going to be the man.
Yeah, it's a real life football move. Like that puts them in the Super Bowl conversation, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think that
it's a good move for him. It'd be a huge move for him. So who are your other guys rest of season? Let's keep rolling with yours and see where we go.
Well, that was just a trade kind of target. 2 other guys, Jameson Crowder, Marlon Mack, that I have as trade targets as well. Predictions for those, since we're just doing it quickly, I got Jameson Crowder to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then Marlon Mack to the Chiefs, like I've been saying for a while. So those are the guys there. As far as like players, rest of season, I got a couple predictions there. I got one at each position. I'll start at quarterback. A guy that I traded for today. I really like Carson Wentz moving forward. I think so. He's 14th ranked right now. I have him inside the top 8 by the end of the year. That's tough to do. Like, it's like, it's only moving up 6 points, but he's got to accrue those points to get up there. Right. So that's actually quite a big jump, in my opinion, anyways. So I got him, top 8 rest of the season. His next 3 games, I just traded it for him, today, and I needed it for this week because his next 3 games, Tennessee, 27th against quarterbacks, the Jets, 10th against quarterbacks, and that's only because they're so easy to run on, and they're getting blown out every game, so no one has to throw against the Jets. I do not think they're the 10th best team against quarterbacks, that's for sure. So there's that, and then Jacksonville after that. Playoff games, he's got a bye week in week 14, so he's fresh off a bye going into the fantasy playoffs. And then
it's Patriots. Patriots, Cardinals, Raiders.
But at home against the Patriots, at the Cardinals, and at home against the Raiders. So he's not playing. It's not like it's outside in Green Bay or Chicago or even Philly, right? So it's at least like comfortable confines type of a thing, and coming off of a bye. So if there's any injuries on the offense to him, if any, whatever it is, they should be healthy going into the playoffs. So that's who I like at quarterback. And that's kind of the prediction that I have for him. And value-wise, I literally traded Kenny Gainwell for him today. Basically straight up. There was some more stuff in there, but it was just throwing stuff. Didn't matter. But so Gainwell for Wentz straight up. So I thought that was a bit.
Welcome back, my friend. Yeah, Wentz is a fun one because he had such a kind of an up and down start with the injuries and all that. But he's been productive the last few weeks now that he's obviously not 100%, and with feet injuries he's probably not going to be 100% all year, but he's playing productive football even with the monsoon that was in San Francisco. I mean, he was in the 20s depending on your scoring system he was very startable, very QB1 friendly type production this last week in a crappy situation. So
and he
definitely
can
a
kick
fun
in
one.
those rushing touchdowns as well. He can definitely kick those in as well. So that's a huge help in my opinion. So yeah, he's definitely a guy. I thought.
Yeah, he was down in his passing production, but adding in a rushing touchdown definitely helped for sure. Bryce, who is a guy rest of the season that you think is gonna kind of do really well, or somebody that is doing well that will continue to stay doing well the rest of the season?
Yeah, so I knew that Cody would come in with like some sleeper players, so I wanted to put some guys in here that would that you probably didn't draft to be like your number ones anywhere, maybe not even your number twos. So more than likely threes, flex spots, guys like that have been performing really well, and I think you can continue that. At quarterback, real quick, I just wrote him last minute was Trey Lance. A lot of times he's probably going to be on the waiver wire unless you have like a guy that has like Pat Mahomes and he's just been kind of sitting on like Trey Lance to see what if. His one game that he came in and played, he ran a lot of yards. So he's got great rushing upside. And he went against a tough Cardinals defense, and Jimmy G looked horrible this past game. So I think Trey Lance is going to take over soon. And when he does, he's going to give you really good rushing upside. But more importantly, I wanted to talk about, it's no surprise, guys that have been performing and probably you can continue to see it is Jaylen Waddle. Is a guy you more than likely probably drafted to be a bench player on a typical redraft thing, but he's wide receiver number 27 right now, and with Tua back, he's put up 2 back-to-back weeks, I think, with 15 plus points. He goes to him early and often. You're kind of seeing that same connection. Obviously, not the same level that you see with like Burrow and Chase, but Waddle's got great PPR value. Some other guys, Marquise Brown has solidified his spot as a solid, a number 1 receiver really on your team, but a really good number 2. And then Leonard Fernett is probably a guy you drafted maybe as a number 3 flex running back or flex player, because last year he kind of, quite frankly, sucked for you during the regular season of fantasy. He really came into play when it came into the actual NFL playoffs. But this year, he's just been consistently solid throughout the year. Ronald Jones is really nowhere to be found. Leonard Fournette's a great running back that catches the ball, and he's their best, actual running back as well. So those are some guys I mentioned that have been playing well, and you can probably expect them to continue doing so.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the Fournette train. Obviously, I have a couple shares of him, so I want that train to keep going. But the way that they're using him, and I think you have no problem expecting kind of back-end RB1, high-end RB2 production the rest of the season just because of how they're using him. I mean, even every time they've given Ronald Jones a chance, he keeps fumbling the ball. So he's not gonna get a heavy dose. It's the Leonard Fournette show. Giovanni Bernard's not proven to be much more than just kind of dink and dunk here and there. And then we saw some Keyshawn Vaughn. I think he had like 4 or 5 carries last week in the pummeling that they gave Chicago.
Mop up work.
Yeah, I mean that's it. So, it really is the Leonard Fournette show because he's catching well out of the backfield.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that he caused an interception, about a month back and a route, but it wasn't a great thrown ball, and there's a whole lot of factors in it. Otherwise, he does a really good job securing the football. So he's one that I love the rest of the season. I think if you're in a redraft situation and you can get a share of him, I mean, you probably can still get him cheap because I'm still seeing him get traded for below what his production is currently. So definitely a big fan of that. And Waddle's been a safe play all of the season except for I think 2 weeks when Tua was hurt. So even if Deshaun gets there, I think Waddle will still be a very productive player.
I honestly, as a guy that has him everywhere, I don't even care. Like, I almost would prefer Tua at this point because he just goes to him so much.
Not over Deshaun, though. Deshaun Watson. Well, if Deshaun Watson,
his touchdown upside goes up. But I mean, Tua's first game back, he threw 2 touchdowns. He had like 15 targets, 16 targets. I mean, does Deshaun Watson throw it to him as much, or does he? I think he in the red zone. Tua is not really a threat to run it to where he's going to, pass it to Waddle. Where Deshaun, obviously the team gets way better, so his touchdown upside goes up. But I couldn't imagine his targets staying so high with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I don't think Deshaun gets traded anyways. I think it's just too murky, and I think it would have happened already if it was going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, so we'll put that to bed, I suppose, until it does happen. Then we'll talk about it, I guess, or if it does happen.
You keep hearing so much news about it not happening or happening. I mean, who knows at this point?
Yeah. And another guy I was thinking that was in the same kind of mold that you're talking, Bryce, I guess RB 2, 3, 2 at the highest, who I think is RB1 kind of status is James Robinson.
Yeah.
I love the guy. I love James Robinson. He is a phenomenal running back, and he should be the guy on that team moving forward for good, period. He's 12th ranked right now. I got him inside the top 6 before the year is over type of thing. I think that team is really just going to – and here's another thing. It's tough to find a workhorse running back at that price point, I think. But I think that team is going to start to find their footing a little bit. I think Darrell Bevel's a really, really good offensive coach. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to start to come into his own a little bit. That offensive line is really not that bad. It's actually kind of a strength on that team. They do have some weapons on offense now with Dan Arnold coming in, Chenault, obviously Marvin Jones, Jamal Agnew's been a pleasant surprise for them. So realistically, they can get it done on offense, and their defense is not very good. So they're going to be, playing a lot of games, and I think they're going to stay in a lot of games. I don't think they're going to go on some sort of run or anything and win a bunch of ball games, but I do think that they're going to be in ball games, which leads to a few more carries for James Robinson. And then, he is the best catcher of the football in the backfield as well. So he's realistically, he is a true kind of workhorse. So I think he's a guy that, can, progress even more throughout the season. So if you can get him, I would go after him 100%. And the name value is not there yet for some.
Well, it's because the team brought in somebody to replace him, and that somebody got hurt, and James Robinson still continues to produce. So, I think as long as Urban stays out of the way and lets the offense run the way that it's built to, I think James Robinson will be fine. So as long as the head coach doesn't ruin it for them, I think we'll be fine. And Robinson's so good. I mean, he's one of those guys that
so good.
He's the hardest worker in the room from everything I've read, and he produces. So
watching games, I don't know how many Jags games you guys watch. I do watch a fair amount because I love James Robinson. I have a fair amount of shares. How many 20-yard runs, 30-yard runs have been called back by holding calls or something silly? So many. It's insane. So realistically, his numbers should be better just bringing back those holding calls or whatever, silly little calls here and there type of thing that aren't his fault at all. So, yeah, he's a guy that I'd absolutely like. I'm a fan. I did want to go the other way and go with a guy that I think is going to fall off a little bit. Is DeAndre Hopkins for the Cards. I think, he's
spicy.
He's the 12th ranked wide receiver right now. My prediction is he ends up outside of the top 20. Pretty bold.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Here's some stats. Here's some stats here to back it up. So he's averaged 165 targets a season for the last 5 years. It's a large sample size and 2 different teams, which is 10.5 targets per game. He missed a game here and there type of thing. 10.5 targets per game over a 5-year sample size, right? Through 7 weeks, he's had 0 games with 10 plus targets. 0 100-yard games. The season high for yards for him is 87 right now. 6.7 targets per game he's averaging right now. They've run the ball more effectively than they have since David Johnson in 2016. And Kyler did get hurt a little bit last year. They do want him to not run the ball as much. They want to hand the ball off more than him scrambling around, running for his life at times. They don't want that. Look at Lamar Jackson with the Ravens offense, when the running backs were healthy, right? When they're leading the league in rushing attempts and stuff like that. So clearly there's a recipe for success there. But also, on top of that, AJ Green is playing very well. Christian Kirk is playing very well. Rondale Moore has been, what we expected, nothing more than we expected. Zach Ertz comes in. You know what I mean? They have tons of options. They have tons of weapons, and there's one football, and that's that. So I'm a massive Nuke fan. Nuke Hopkins is one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL, but there's only one football. So that's my spicy take going back the other way. He's a trade sell high, trade away type of target, in my opinion.
I don't know how I feel about that, Bryce. What do you think about that?
Something.
What do you think about that, Bryce? I'm looking at things before I respond.
I mean, yeah, if everything he says is true, there's definitely validity to his argument, right? You know, the stats numbers don't lie, but yeah, I was even about to mention that is you know, they're just always winning their games right now. I mean, this team is dominant, and they're not having to throw the ball a lot in games where, you know, last year I watched a lot because you know, I only have one share of Nuke Hopkins, and it's in a keeper league, and I've had him for, it feels like, ever. And you know, he benefits so much from, like, back all the way to the Texans, even like last year with the Cardinals, is that he benefits a lot from that team trailing and being the guy and getting a ton of targets and a ton of volume, where he's not really needed to, you know, do that this year. Where I'm thinking that you might see Nuke go, you know, go nuts more just in like the real playoffs, like the NFL playoffs. I think the decrease in workload is going to keep him healthy all year as well. And why not, you know, spread the ball out if you're winning, get all these other people into rhythm. That way, when you go into the playoffs, you're just firing on all cylinders with all these guys. Because Hopkins is by far a top 3 actual wide receiver in the NFL, if not number 1. Him and DeAndre Hopkins are my top 2 at the moment. So it's hard to count out a guy that's got that much talent, but they're just spreading the ball so much. And like Cody said, there's just one football. I would trade him for the right package. I've actually been actively shopping him in one league, this keeper league, because I've been trying to kind of sell and get some running backs for next year. And it's just hard to get someone to overpay for a guy that's not as producing like he was in previous years.
So
well, right now,
outside of a couple outlier games throughout the season, what's going to change in that offense? You know,
right.
When are they going to be trailing with what they have, with where they're at and how they're playing and how they're rolling, how their defense is playing? What's going to change, right, throughout the rest of the season? And he hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been fully healthy. He's been missing practice every week. I love Nuke Hopkins. I fully agree. He's might be my favorite Jamar Chase now, but he might be my favorite wide receiver in the NFL right now. But the numbers don't lie, and there's only one football, and there's nothing going to change with that offense and with that team. You know, maybe there's an outlier game here and there where he pops off for, you know, 15 targets, 10 catches, 2 touchdowns, 150 yards, whatever. But that's not going to be, you know, the ceiling week to week like it has been in years past. That's how I feel about it.
Well, and looking at the numbers so far this year, I mean, he's never surpassed 9 targets in a game, not gotten past 87 yards in a game. And the games he has had, you know, I mean, like 2 touchdowns, he had 55 yards and 3 catches. You know, I mean, so the number looked good because he had 2 touchdowns. Or week 1, you know, 83 and 2. I mean, it's, you know, when you look at the numbers behind it, it's tough, but that's what Arizona wanted to be. They wanted to be able to spread the ball to whatever and be a matchup nightmare. So
and run the ball more. And there's nothing wrong with what they're doing on offense at all.
Yeah, so I don't hate the take. I mean, right now he's sitting at like wide receiver 15, at least in this league that I'm looking at. He's like wide receiver 15 based on this super flex scoring in this one league that I've got it pulled up on. You know, so I mean, it's dropping 10, you know, 5 to 10 spots. I mean, I guess wouldn't be surprised. I'm just looking to see what's behind him. I mean, Justin Jefferson could easily move up. Adam Thielen, maybe. AB, Sutton for sure. I mean, we've already proven that Sutton's the man, and Cody's finally on board.
Here's the thing. I never said like Sutton was no good or you shouldn't start him. I just said I like.
Just rolled the tape back. He said Sutton's the worst football player he's ever seen. But yeah, looking at the guys behind him, I'm like, okay, I could see some guys that could, because of the way their offenses are built, move up, but not a lot of them. I mean, Waddle, because they funnel so many targets. You know, Stephon Diggs, he's one that. So Corduro Patterson and Stephon Diggs are 2 guys that I wanted to bring up tonight because Corduro Patterson is way overproducing what people would have expected, and Diggs is way underproducing. Right now, Diggs is outside of wide receiver 2 production through almost half a season, you know, and he hasn't been hurt, you know, but he's getting a bunch of targets. He's just not really producing a lot, you know. So I don't hate the Hopkins take now that I've looked at it a little bit more. I mean, on the surface, it seemed a bit like way outside bold. But I don't hate it. I don't know that it's hard to agree with it because any given Sunday he could go for 102 and
Yeah,
150 and 2. But
again, that used to be like his week-to-week ceiling every single week. You were like, he could easily pop off for 150 and 3. My floor is like 80 and a touchdown with 6 catches. That's like a floor, absolute floor for Nuke Hopkins in years past. But it's just where it is. Like, that's why I had to bring some numbers to back it up. I didn't want to just spout off something nonsensical. I had to deep dive look into it to actually make sense. And to me, it makes sense. So if I'm a Nuke Hopkins owner, I actually have 0 shares of them. Not that I don't like them, but I would absolutely be looking to trade them. I think that, at most, all things remain the same.
Our boy Josh from Front Yard Fantasy joining us. He is also a bit nervous about Hopkins. So you are not alone, Josh. This part of this conversation, Cody brought this up, and Cody is a little nervous that he's not going to finish inside the top. Did you say 20 or 25?
20, outside the top 20.
Outside of the top 20. So he's not far. He's right now around wide receiver 15. So he could drop 6 to 10 spots, and then there you go. But yeah, so the guys that I wanted to talk about tonight, one of them is because somebody just made me a trade offer in a league that I'm very dominant in, and I don't know what to do about it. Is Corduro Patterson. Do you guys anticipate him being somebody that continues the production at the pace he's going, even though Ridley, Pitts, Russell Gage is coming back, as it came back some last week, and people were expecting more to him. Bryce, what do you think about Corduro Patterson the rest of the season? Do you anticipate him staying, depending on the league type right now? MFL has him as a wide receiver in a lot of leagues. Flea Flicker has him as either. You can be him as a wide receiver, running back. Like, do you see him finishing very similar to where he's at? Because right now he's on pace to, be a high-end RB2 or wide receiver 2. I guess depends on what you're looking at him at.
No, I don't expect him to be what he has been. He is, but he's going to continue to be easily startable in your lineups, right? So I guess right now what I would say is sell high, because he is producing like floor 100 yards every single week, and ceiling is obviously 2 to 3 touchdowns in there. But with, like you just said, I was going to mention Gage coming back, because I grabbed him off a lot of waiver wires in my league before this past week, and plugged him in for the apocalypse that we just went through. And luckily enough, I had like one of the best weeks I've had in fantasy my entire life. And Russell Gage is definitely a part of that. He's more involved in the pass game. Calvin Ridley will be more involved. He actually had the first time he didn't have 5 catches and 50 yards in this whole year that he's been healthy, and then going back into last year. But he still scored I believe he scored a touchdown, right? Yes, he did.
Gage, yeah.
Yeah. No, Calvin Ridley did as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Calvin Ridley scored 1 as well. So I think with Pitts, Ridley, and Gage, you're going to see a lot less of Corduro Patterson in the pass game. But I still think at this point, he might get the most touches out of the backfield. When they do pass it out of the backfield and when they do run it, he's got huge upside when it comes to inside the 10 to 5 yard line, because they do like to run the ball in there. And he is huge. That dude, he is a big guy, and he runs really well. So do I expect him to be where he's at right now? Probably not, but I don't think the fall off is going to be very dramatic. I think he's going to be an easy, a great flex option, and not a bad wide receiver 3/running back 2 option for you as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Falcons are surprisingly 3-3 right now. They're actually not as horrible as I thought they would be. To be honest, I mean, still a lot of season left, but they're surprisingly, in a lot of ball games, they're competing, they're looking good. And, in the off season, when I came on the show, what I said about that offense in general was just like, they have no choice. They're going to have to keep throwing the ball. And I still kind of feel that way. So I guess temper your expectations with Corduro Patterson. I'll admit he was a guy that I looked at in that whole, DeAndre Hopkins conversation, where I was trying to poke holes, in his armor type of thing, but he is getting a lot of touches, and he is going to get you a lot of total yards. So, I mean, it depends on what you're selling him for, but you're right. He's absolutely a high-end flex option. And if you're in like an ESPN league, like we talked about earlier, where he is an RB, I think his value goes up. If he's just listed as a wide receiver, I think his value goes down. So that's a big part of it. It's going to depend on where you can list them and where you can play them. Again, RB, more value, wide receiver, less value. Temper your expectations regardless, because Pitts is coming on. Calvin Ridley should be doing better than he is. But to be honest with you, and I said this offseason as well, this is kind of what I expected out of Calvin Ridley. And Russell Gage will take a step forward and keep playing the way he's playing. So I would temper expectations as well with Mike Davis. I don't mind him as a sell option, but again, it depends on your format and where you can play him. Did you accept the trade, Brad?
No, I rejected it. Because I'm 6-1 in this league. My wide receiver core is the strength of it. I mean, Cooper Kupp, Michael Pittman, Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, Keenan Allen.
Is he listed as a running back in your?
He's listed as a wide receiver only. Okay. So it has less value in my mind.
Yes.
I do need in this league, running back is kind of my weakest position. Leonard Fournette, obviously Kareem Hunt is on IR, and then Michael Carter, Mike Davis, David Johnson, Marlon Mack. It's not the strongest part of this team, but it's a super flex tight end premium, and then at tight end I've got Dalton and Hunter Henry and Zach Ertz and. I got a couple guys on IR, Hunt, Mostert, MVS, although MVS might be back, but Khalil Herbert's on the taxi squad with Jarrett Patterson, Hunter Long, Tylan Wallace. It's a solid team that's number one in the league right now at 6-1 and, putting up oodles of points and, just doing well. But Corduro Patterson's not a guy that I'm super excited about, even for the rest of the season, just because of all the other pieces of this offense. So that's why I'm like, But last night the conversation looked a lot different, different feelings from the guys from last night. Kind of made me feel like, all right, maybe I need to ask this question again. Maybe there's something I'm missing about Cordero, but I just don't like it. And it wasn't like the trade was terrible. The guy didn't ask for anything crazy. He asked for LaVisca and Khalil Herbert. I was like, I don't want to. Khalil is what he is, a nice 6-round running back who's had a couple of good weeks. And then LaVisca should long-term be a better value for me. So I'm like, I don't need it, so I'm not going to do it. And then the other one was Diggs. So Diggs is not producing well. He's not producing an insane amount right now. He's, kind of in the back end wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 production wise. What's going on? And do you guys see him bouncing back? So David in the in the chat, we'll get at least one taste of Buffalo from last season with Dawson Knox ruled out this week. So so Diggs this week could potentially have a boom week, but do you guys see it going for the rest of the season? I'll start with you, Bryce.
Yeah, I think Diggs's production, you can almost kind of relate to Hopkins, where there's more people now that are kind of stepping up. Last year, Diggs was it. He was the only guy that anybody felt comfortable throwing to for Josh Allen. Who was the number 2? Cole Beasley. There was really no tight end stepping up. The running backs aren't really good out of the backfield. So Diggs was getting an insane amount of targets and an insane amount of production. And I don't know if I said it on stream, but I've talked about with my friends and things that Diggs probably just saw his peak at last year. I don't think you top a season like that. It was a phenomenal season. I think he led the league in yards. I know Adams led it in touchdowns and fantasy points, and Diggs was right there at number 2, I believe. So yeah, he's going to get knocked down back to earth, but that knockdown is really far right now. I expect Diggs to climb that ladder again. I think he's eventually going to see, more production. Teams aren't going to be able to focus him with how well Manny Sanders is playing. Cole Beasley it seems like he's kind of a boomer bust some weeks, but some weeks he's really involved. Some weeks he's not. Knox getting knocked out obviously is not ideal for that offense. Right. So I think that, Knox being out is going to definitely help Diggs the rest of the season. He's going to see more targets. But Knox is getting a lot of red zone looks too, I believe. I was looking up a statistic on that. I can't remember the numbers. So he was getting a lot of touchdowns, and I think that's going to go right back to Diggs. So I expect him to climb back up into the top 15 fairly soon. Cody?
Yeah, I'll absolutely agree with that. I think he's going to go nuclear against the Dolphins this weekend. I think he's going to have a huge day. And then, so going off of, building off of what you just said, Bryce, I completely agree, because I was going to say, he's, and it is sort of like Nuke Hopkins can do this as well. But, Stephon Diggs is 4 weeks away from being back in the top 10 wide receiver points wise. His next 4 games, Dolphins, Jags, Jets, and the Colts. Those 4 games, he could be back in the top 10, no problem. No problem. He could be 100 yards plus 2 touchdowns in every single one of those games. And I don't think anybody would be surprised. So if you can buy low on Stephon Diggs right now, I would absolutely jump all over that if you could buy low on him. Again, especially with these next 4 weeks coming up, he could be right back into that conversation of being, because that talent doesn't just go away. Yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to replicate those stats that he had from last year. Absolutely. But, he is a very, very, very talented wide receiver in this league. So I think it's honestly just only a matter of time. Not that he's been bad, but, when the expectation is set and that bar is set, then I get the expectations, I should say. But again, these next 4 weeks, he could just skyrocket up those rankings type of thing.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I agree as well. I think Diggs, it's more of just the product of the offense that's around him. You don't have to make him the focal point and hit him with so many targets every game. Keep him healthy, make sure he's able to go all season and just keep moving the ball like they have been, which is spreading it out and playing the mismatches and things like that. So I agree. I think Diggs could bounce back any second and really jump back into that high-end wide receiver one conversation. Okay, so it's 10-12. Let's take some questions. There's a whole bunch in the chat, so we'll get them rolling and try to help some folks out. For anybody that is posting in there, if you're doing start-sit questions, remember it's only Wednesday. So check back Sunday morning for Bryce and Rick and the guys doing the Boomer Bust show. Help you really get those lineups set. Unless your questions are about tomorrow night's games, know that a few days could make a difference, but we'll help you either way. First question is from our I'm guessing new friend, Kyle. I don't know that I've talked to Kyle in the chat before, so welcome, Kyle. Chuba, T, Amari, PPR start 2. Bryce, which 2 are you starting this weekend?
T. Higgins is a no-brainer for me out of these 3, and who do the Cowboys play this week? It probably doesn't matter.
Cowboys.
Amari Cooper.
Is that Amari Cooper?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. I was thinking.
If it's Amari Rodgers, no.
Yeah, that'd be easy. T. Higgins got 15 targets last week. I think I wanted to note that. That's the most by far. I think Jamar Chase was second with 10. T. Higgins is definitely Burrow's go-to guy when it comes to really looking for the chains, third down get ahead of the chains for second and third for first down as well. I like Chuba Hubbard a lot. He had a very disappointing week this past week against the Giants, but I think I can chalk up the second part to either floor or ceiling. Like Amari Cooper is a typical boomer bust performer. It seems like he either gets you less than 5 or more than 25. So if you really need some upside, I would easily go Amari Cooper here. But if you want kind of a safe floor of 10 plus points, I think you got to go with Hubbard. But I'm putting T. Higgins over both of them.
Cody.
I'm actually, I think that's going to be a shootout with the Vikings. I think the Cowboys and the Vikings, are gunslinging on Sunday Night Football. So I like Amari Cooper off the bye. He's a guy that could absolutely go off for 150 and 3 touchdowns. And I don't think anybody's shocked. And T. Higgins cannot do that. I do like T. Higgins. 15 targets was huge. So for me, it's Amari Cooper for sure. And then either T. Higgins or Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard let us down. And he doesn't have that pass catching, ability really like Christian McCaffrey does. So I probably go with the 2 wide receivers, Amari Cooper and T. Higgins on that one. How you feel, Brad?
I'm not feeling good about. I love Amari. I will always start. I always say start your studs. So give me Amari, give me T. But I want to say Chuba over T. But
kind of do too. I kind of do too, to be honest with you.
So Amari and T for sure.
Both
start the studs. But you really can't go wrong. So
you can't. With those 3, they all have good matchups, and
the Viking secondary stinks. So, but we got to jump to the end. Super chat. We got a super chat. Welcome, Derek. We appreciate the super chat. Super chats will always get bumped to the top of the line. Your question gets answered next. You're the man. We appreciate you. In flex, full PPR. I need 1 flex. Other flex I have is Beasley. Josh Allen is QB. Pick 1. Randall Cobb. It's Khalif Raymond, Darius Slayton, or Sterling Shepard, if healthy, going up against Aaron Rodgers. So he's going up against A-Rod. So he needs to make sure he's got. So we're really only picking 1 flex here. So Cobb, Raymond, Darius Slayton, Shepard.
I probably bring it back with Cobb, considering he has he has Aaron Rodgers, but I mean those Giants wide receivers against the Chiefs, that defense is god awful. So Khalif Raymond is out completely for me. If Shepard's healthy, I'm playing Sterling Shepard on that. Again, it's Wednesday, check back on Sunday, but it's between Randall Cobb and Sterling Shepard for me. And if Shepard's healthy, I'm going Shepard. Bryce?
Yeah, he can't wait till Sunday because Randall Cobb plays tomorrow.
True.
I'm probably gonna pass on Randall Cobb and go. Sterling Shepard was a game time decision last week, so I would imagine that he's going to play this week. If you were a game time decision, you had a whole week to get healthy. I believe that he did practice. If I remember correctly.
I'm news as of this morning. I should say this afternoon. Shepard was in uniform and going through stretches before practice. So first injury report of the week won't happen until tomorrow, though. So he's still questionable for the weekend against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
But his last game against the Rams, 14 targets, 10 catches, 76 yards. So definitely in a PPR situation, I think it almost has to be Shepard. If Shepard's not healthy and Slayton is healthy, then Slayton could.
Yeah. Worst case Ontario, Darius Slayton's going to play. Only Canadians will probably get that joke, but worst case Ontario, you'll have Darius Slayton there, who did have double-digit points last week. So
Sully, let us know if you're laughing in the chat.
I'm going Shepard here, and if he doesn't play, I'm going Darius Slayton. I'm passing on Randall Cobb. Khalif Raymond's not in the question for me. The Giants might be full guns for this. It's a Monday night game, right, against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe Tony and Saquon were suited up working with trainers on the sideline today. I've been kind of keeping an eye on that. As a Saquon owner, I hope he doesn't play this Monday. Honestly, I'd rather him get healthy another week. But I feel like if he's playing, he's probably at least 90 to 95% at minimum. So I think Sterling Shepard benefits greatly if both Tony and Barkley are there as well. So I'm either going Shepard or Slayton, depending on if Shepard plays.
The tough thing for me in the Khalif Raymond conversation is he keeps getting targeted. I know he had a down week.
He's got a bit of
against the Vikings and the Bengals, but he continues to get looks. 6 catches, 3 catches, 6 catches. And that's just the last 4 games that he actually had good production. So it's hard, but I wouldn't be picking him as a starter. He's a depth guy.
His average is like 4.5 yards per catch, and he's got a bit of a case of the dropsies from a few plays that I saw.
Yeah, he's not been a consistent receiver, but he's not meant to be. Like, he's a depth receiver getting forced into starting action. So definitely go with Shepard for me. Randall Cobb is an intriguing option with Adams on COVID, and MVS may not be coming back ready just yet. Who knows? He may play this week, may not. I mean, Cobb almost feels like the top receiver in this offense because he's healthy.
Right.
And
Lazard played really good this past week too.
Yeah,
I think
he's on COVID.
Oh, he got COVID?
I thought he was put on the list too, just because of the contact tracing, right?
Yeah, he's out completely. He's not vaccinated and is a close contact. He was called. He's technically, I think there's still or maybe not at this point right this second, but he was listed out. Lazard was listed out before Devontae Adams.
Yeah. So Shepard, Slayton, Cobb, Raymond in that order. Obviously Shepard is our top option here. So thank you, Derek. We do appreciate you joining the super chat and showing some love. Much appreciated. All right, next up is our boy Brandon Williams. He's been hot and heavy in the chats over in the comments on YouTube, so we appreciate you, Brandon. Would you do Kareem Hunt for Josh Jacobs and Michael Gallup, or with Penny, Dynasty 2QB, very thin at running back, Chase, Kareem, Dearness Johnson, Devonta Freeman, Jamal Williams? I would trade Kareem Hunt for Jacobs and Michael Gallup.
I would trade Hunt for Jacobs straight up.
Yeah, I mean, so I would do that because Gallup's coming back off injury, and I like Gallup a lot. So
yeah, I mean,
especially in Dynasty,
if you're getting free Gallup, absolutely, yeah, I take that trade personally for sure.
Yep. You're not against that trade, are you, Bryce?
Well, I probably wouldn't do it for Jacobs straight up. I don't really like Josh Jacobs, but if you're trying to compete this year, I guess that would change my mind, but I probably would do the trade. I think Michael Gallup goes somewhere else next year and becomes a very good dynasty asset. So
Yeah, I think he's gone too.
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think
All right.
that makes it good.
Makes it worthwhile.
Yeah.
All right, Qui-Gon. I'm thinking of trading Calvin Ridley in a need of running back help. So who do you think I should target? You're trading Ridley. I want quality. I want a quality running back.
I would think like
James Robinson.
Zeke, James Robinson. Nah, you want more just for name value. You could. I would say yes to James Robinson, but you could get more than just James Robinson.
If it's redraft, I wouldn't hate James Robinson for Calvin Ridley. Obviously, dynasty, I don't think I would do that. But
no, not dynasty, not a chance in dynasty.
Yeah,
I would
redraft.
Want more.
I don't hate that. I think if you could get Robinson and maybe a serviceable backup or replacement,
a flex guy,
like maybe like a I mean, depending on who you got. I mean, maybe like a Jacoby Meyer and throw like somebody like that in there with them.
Or like an upgrade at like tight end or quarterback or something. Like, do a package. I think James Robinson would be a good one. I think.
I mean, I'd start high and then work down your list. That's kind of how I work. I mean, you could maybe go after Nick Chubb. I don't think that'd be some people don't really like him.
Well, but if he's in need of running back help, Chubb should be back this week. Or I mean, he's questionable right now, but should be back, and that's a huge boom. I would look at Chubb. I would look at anybody who's kind of back end RB1 right now. So Fournette, Zeke, Hunt, Mixon, James Robinson, Chubb, Antonio Gibson. I mean, these are all guys that could be mid to high end RB1 by the end of the season. But
some of those guys, like maybe Gibson, like you could get Gibson, Robinson, you could get plus something,
right?
For Ridley.
So there you go, Qui-Gon. All right, Brad, not me, but another Brad. Keenan Allen or Deontay Johnson rest of season, full PPR. Deontay for me. As much as I love Keenan.
Easily for me.
I love Keenan, but if they trade for Brandon Cooks, then that hurts them.
It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter who it is. Deontay Johnson gets like
crazy targets.
I think he's top 10 right now when it comes to averaging, or he's maybe number 12. I think he's top 12 when it comes to average points. I mean, he has bye week obviously this last week, but he is like one of those top guys that get overlooked.
Realistically, that's like wide receiver 11 and 12 or something like that. Like, it's so close. Yeah. Like they're so close for me. Yeah. So like you couldn't go wrong either way, I think. But I find like gun to my head, I would probably take Deontay Johnson as well, even though I absolutely love Keenan Allen.
And he has a follow-up. Also, should I trade Antonio Gibson and Deontay/Keenan or Deontay or Keenan for Justin Jefferson?
No way for me.
In redraft, I would guess I'd have to see your depth. I think Antonio Gibson the rest of the season is a guy that I do not want any part of. He's got a fractured shin. I do like Deontay Johnson, but I don't know if I like him more than Justin Jefferson.
That's what I'm saying. Like for maybe a slight upgrade.
No, would you take Keenan Allen and Jefferson is what you're saying?
I would not trade Gibson and Deontay or Keenan for Jefferson. No. I
was reading that. I was reading that wrong. I was reading Gibson and Deontay for Keenan and Jefferson. No, I would not do that. There's no way.
Yeah, no
way.
All right,
maybe Gibson and Keenan, maybe.
No,
depending on my depth.
Depending on my depth, I would want a running back piece in return to restore that depth. I mean, and it doesn't have to be super sexy. I mean, just some RB2 of some stature. Even if it's mid to back end, I would probably think about that. For the Keenan and Gibson side, I'm not touching. Deontay's not moving off my team in redraft. He just gets too much targets.
Yeah.
And Savi, welcome. Start Javonta or Waddle at my flex. Well, we know Cody loves him some Javonta.
I do, but I'm realistic as well. Like I'm going Waddle there.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I love Javonte, but I mostly love Javonte in like a dynasty format.
We thought we could get you.
And I do, I love me some Javonte Williams. Absolutely. I'm the ultimate truther over here.
He runs the fan club.
Waddle in that conversation.
Follow-up question. Someone dropped Allen Robinson. I have a free roster spot, so going to snatch him up and hope he's traded. Even if he's not traded, it's still good to roster him.
Yeah, he's not getting traded. Like I said earlier in the show, he's not getting traded, but you might as well scoop him up.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question. Andrew McGrady, welcome. I feel like you're new to the chat. So welcome, my friend. Corey Davis or Brandon Cooks rest of season? This is a really good question. I feel like if Zach Wilson was healthy, I'd say Corey Davis, just because they seem to have a good connection and a good rapport, and Brandon Cooks can be taken out because they just don't have much to target otherwise. But I think with Zach Wilson out, who knows for how long, until I can see how he does with Mike White, Joe Flacco, whoever the quarterback is, I think I'd lean Brandon Cooks right now, but I don't feel great about it. What about you, Bryce?
I'm leaning Brandon Cooks here pretty easily. I know that he can be taken out of games, but it doesn't happen like super often. I mean, I think 3 of the games this year he has put up below 10 points. But Corey Davis can also be taken out of games, and he's their best receiver. Mm-hmm. So I guess it comes to which quarterback I like better, and that's also terrible. So I'm going to go with the guy I think is more talented with that situation. I'm just going to go with Brandon Cooks. But again, I don't really feel great about it either.
Well, 7, 13, 5, 7, 11, 14, 7. That's Cooks' per game targets. Obviously, the 5 was against the Patriots. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, 5 catches, 9 catches, 3 catches, 5 catches, 9 catches, 9 catches. I mean, it's a fair amount of production for a guy that's on a team that everyone, believes is pretty well in trouble this year. So I don't hate Cooks for sure. What are you thinking, Cody?
I really like Cooks, and I think just skill wise, Cooks is the better wide receiver here. Quarterback wise, I would probably trust Tyrod Taylor, who's coming back this week, over even Zach Wilson. Yeah. And I do genuinely think that Brandon Cooks is getting traded. I think that he is getting traded with that cap hit. It's low enough that it brings in a lot of teams. A lot of teams will have the ability to trade for Brandon Cooks, and he's a super, super hot commodity on a trade deadline. And again, like the team that I like to trade for him, the Chargers, I think that that's an absolute match made in heaven. So if he's on the Chargers versus Corey Davis, again, I still take Brandon Cooks. If he's on the Patriots, I'd probably still take Brandon Cooks. If he's on the Steelers, I take Brandon Cooks, right? So Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, Cooks feels like the better consistent producer on a rough offense. I mean, both teams are in the middle of trying to rebuild. 6, 7, 7, 10, 5, 7. So it's not like Corey Davis isn't getting targeted, but the quality of the targets. I mean, I would agree. Cooks for me, for sure. All right. Brad, how do you guys feel about Hollywood Brown for the rest of the season? Can he keep this up?
I think everybody's on the bandwagon now. I've been touting Hollywood all season, and I think everybody's come around. So I think he can.
14, 5, 10, 5, 7, 10. I mean, he's getting...
I said it at the beginning, like he was one of those guys that you probably didn't draft very high, and you're reaping amazing value of where you drafted him in redraft. So, and I don't see it going any other way. I think Bateman getting more involved just helps him even more. So, absolutely, he can keep it up.
Yeah, I like him as like a very high end wide receiver too. And like potentially a back end, low end, whatever, wide receiver 1 even. I really think that he's there.
I feel safe in saying that he's touchdown dependent, how high his value is each week. The weeks that he's getting at least 1 touchdown, he's, our wide receiver 1 conversation easily. The weeks he doesn't get a touchdown, though, I mean, it's barely flexible. I mean, the 2 weeks that he didn't get a touchdown, 4 catches, 35 yards, and 3 catches for 53 yards. I mean,
but you can say that about a lot of wide receivers,
right? Absolutely. It's not bashing him. I mean, he's very productive. The other weeks, I mean, he's producing at a mid to high end wide receiver 1. So I don't hate him rest of the season. I think he will keep it up, but know that there's going to be kind of stinkers here and there. If he doesn't get a touchdown, he's probably not going to give you great production. So just be mindful, but definitely trust him rest of the season because he's doing a good job and making the most out of his opportunities. I mean, he's only missed 20 balls this year.
And Lamar's deep ball is looking a little better this year, I think. Just watching games.
He's almost like a pocket quarterback this year.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. We were both pausing at the same time. Yeah, Rick and I talked about it on Sunday. It's like Lamar's doing everything better. You know?
Yeah. It looks like he's improved as a passer. Like again, I was gonna say I don't have any like stats to back that up, but just from the eye test, it looks like he's improved, especially on his deep ball, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, and he's not trying to make a lot of throws on the run. I mean, like where he's trying to off script the pass and running and throwing and doing all those things. Like when you stay as a more pocket passer, you have the ability to see the field, step into your throw, do some of the things that he wasn't always doing in previous seasons. So I think he's done a good job with the way the things have gone this year. I know the team isn't done exactly haven't been as successful as maybe they'd hoped, coming off that rough last week against Cincy, but he still's looked better than I think he's looked in a while. So it's all good. That's it, folks. We're done for the night. We're done for this week. Sunday morning, the Boomer Bust Show. Get your last-minute questions in. Bryce, Rick, Sully, and the guys will be helping you set your lineups and do things like that. If you're not in the Discord community, rotoheat.com, jump over to our Discord. You can get all the conversations, all of our DFS chatter. If you guys are doing getting your lineups for Prize Picks and FanDuel and all that, all the amazing Roto Heat partnerships we've got going, we can help you get those lineups set and help you win some monies. And then otherwise, drop a comment below, drop a like, and talk to you guys later.
See you guys.